Hi, everybody. I'm back with another Big Mama Said That. And before I start or tell you what the Big Mama Said That quote was, I'm going to talk about something behind the scenes. Is that I woke up this morning and I went to the hair salon to get my hair done. Yes, my butter swept. But I dye my hair, I perm my hair, everything. So that's why I do keep it short, but I always put extensions. But when I go into the salon, I kid you not, I look like Rasputia. I kid you not. Black roots coming in, everything. But it's okay because my stylist is also my therapist. I call him my therapist. And we've been rocking for 14 years, so you see me at my best and my worst. I say this to say that when I go in, I always look like, oh my Lord. And then whenever I walk out, people look at me like, oh, that's so beautiful. You look so good. And I'm just like, oh, okay. So as I'm driving home, I'm laughing because you see the people's facial reactions from when I walk into the shop and what I look like when I walk out of the shop. And it just reminds me of a Big Mama saying that, thank God I don't look like what I've been through. That saying was heard by me as a child, teenager, young adult. Big Mama would say this, and she would talk to her friends, and they would just talk about the old schools and the old days and the things that they did. And of course, as kids, we're like, "Oh God, here they go. Let me leave." Wish I would have stayed. Probably would have gained a lot of knowledge. But as an adult, a mature adult now, I understand what she meant by that. Thank God I don't look like what I've been through. All the scars, all the pain, all the disappointment, all the hurt that I couldn't even imagine the things they went through because I know all of the pain, the scars, and the hurt that I hold. And, I was born in 72. So mm, we had it a little better than what they had it. But still, as my life, I feel like if people look at me, it's like you can't judge this book by the cover. And I thank God for that. I thank God for his mercy and his grace every single day because it's some things that he brought me through that I'm just like, I have to be touched by an angel because I'm still here. And was I thugging in the street? No, never did. Too scary for that. It's just, but I just can say that the things that I've been through in my life was, I could probably write a book about. I probably should think about it. Probably will. But right now, it's like I can say I used to love to make mud pies in the dirt when I was little. So I remember like I lived on South Central when I grew up. I was making a mud pie in the dirt. I made this mud pie and it was so perfect. And what you have to do with the mud pie is you have to make them really nice and then you let them stay overnight so then they're hardened like a hard rock. And that's when I put all the designs in. So I'm sitting in the front lawn of the apartment building that we lived in and I'm sitting on the ground, 8 years old, and two of the neighbors who live in the apartment complex are fighting. They're fighting over a dog. It is like an older neighbor who has a family, and then there's a young boy who was like 17, because I remember he was so cute. Oh my God. His name was Deshaun. I will never forget him ever in life. So we're standing out there and they're arguing back and forth. And it's South Central. I'm used to that, basically. No. And then the next thing I hear is a pop and then a boom. When I was 8 years old, the neighbor, Deshaun, and he fell over onto me and my mud pie. 8 years old. Didn't flinch or anything. And that's wild as an 8 year old, the things I had already seen before that. But that was the first time I saw that. I could also say that as fourth through sixth grade, stayed with my big mama and we fell on hard times and we were homeless. And we slept in cars for certain nights. We slept in abandoned buildings. And it had become normal to me. I was one of those kids who went to school to have breakfast and lunch. Dinner time, sometimes we didn't have dinner. Sometimes you had a bag of chips. I don't know. Um, I've seen a lot of violence in my life. I've seen a lot of things that a child at the age that I was should not have seen. And I do thank God, at about 11 years old, someone's like, something's wrong with these kids, me and my brother. And we were placed in foster care. That's another video. I have to tell you how we were placed in foster care. Trauma bond with me. But basically, I think about all the things that I've been through and the things that I've seen. And if people don't know me, they would never know that I was a person who went through all of this stuff at such a young age. And sometimes when I share my story with people, it's like their mouth just fall open. Oh my goodness, what? And they don't believe it, but it's like, thank God I don't look like what I've been through. And of course, there's a lot more stuff that I can talk about. But the one thing that I will say is, in my life, even though shifted around foster home to foster home, I never really knew my mother. So it was like, okay. My dad was, like I told you, was a Rolling Stone. Wherever he laid his hat was his home. But I say this to say, the one thing that stayed constant in my life was education. Because no matter where I was going to go to school. If I was going to school when I was with my grandmother, just to basically to eat breakfast and lunch. For me at school, it was like, this was my place where I can excel. I was not told that kids are to be seen and not heard. I had a voice, and I had control over school. I had no control outside that school. I had no control where we're going to live, where I'm going to lay my head, where my next meal was coming from. But the one thing that I could control was my education. And people always ask me, oh my God, you're so smart. Da, da, da. No, that was my safe zone. That was my comfort zone. And especially reading. I could read a book and just escape everything I was going through. So for me, before I even finished one book, I was ready for the next book, because life to me, I didn't want any parts of what was going on in my life. It was too traumatic. It was too hard. So became an avid reader, very good writer. But education was part of my life. It was part of my safety zone. That was my therapy when I was growing up as a child. So people were like, oh my God, well, what made you go to school, and what made you go to school to get your doctorate? Because it was like, it was there, I could go. It wasn't like, oh, I'm going to get my doctorate because I'm going to do this and do that. Education was just so much a part of me. And I feel kind of empty not being in school. So now I think I should become a professor. That way I can be in school again. That's one. But also just to escape. And also the only way that you can live better in life, and that social mobility that you can have, is through education. Through education, you become qualified to do certain jobs. And that was my thing. All my life, I was like, I have to get a good job because I have to take care of me and my brother, no matter what. I had to take care of me and my family, and like for my sons. So every time I sat down to take a test, it was so much pressure on me, because it's like, I have to do the best I can, because I have to lead my family. I have to be the example for my children, for my brother's children. And thank God everybody is in college and high school and excelling in the family. But that was what helped me. So when people say, you don't look like what you've been through, thank God, right? Thank God. So I'm going to do another video after this about how I ended up in foster care. You'll never guess how.